Hello, everybody. Welcome to Frame Trap. On this episode, I am joined by Michael Huber.
Yo.
And Brandon Jones.
Yo.
I will be your host, Ben Moore, and I've got, for the opening here, I've done it before, but I just want to do it again. You know, we're getting close to fall. We're getting close to the end of the year. There's a lot of game coming out, a lot of like excitement, a lot of possibilities. You know, game of the year begins swirling around in your head. So right now, in this moment, on this Monday, what is your hottest gaming wish?
My hottest gaming wish.
Gaming wish.
Oh, well, I feel bad because patrons actually got the story breaking exclusively because Huber yelled at me in the middle of Love and Respect, the exclusive Patreon Love and Respect. But I didn't know about that GTA remaster thing. And it's funny because sometimes you're so close to something that you don't get too invested. You know, something means so much to you, like if they're going to remaster something or remake something, and people are like, "What are you thinking about?" You're like, "I don't like to think about it because it's like too much." My brain starts to go in directions. Like you were like, "What if they did online?" It's like, "Oh, what if they completely revamp the controls with online controls? Like, what if each one had its own multiplayer mode? What if, you know, that trilogy on my Switch? Like, yeah, hard to." That's a lot of hours. That's over 100 hours. That's the whole thing. Is definitely triple digits.
Well, 3 in Vice City you can get through quick. It's San Andreas that's like 4 times longer.
But it's so good.
A crazy beast.
Yeah.
But it's incredible. And I haven't played San Andreas in a long time.
Beast of a game.
So,
yeah. You can get through 3 really quick.
It's funny because speaking of hot remakes, Quake remake, you were just like, your mind is going to possibilities, and it's just like, well, what is that going to look like?
Yeah.
What are they going to add? Huber, how about you, the Wish Master?
Hottest gaming wish.
Isn't that a horror movie?
It is. I'm trying to think who was in Wishmaster. It's like Lance Henriksen or something. Like
Michael Keaton or Lance Henriksen or something.
I would watch any horror movie with Michael Keaton in it. Holy shit.
Has Michael Keaton been in a horror movie?
Yeah, it's the San Francisco one. The San Francisco one where he's the tenant. Boulevard, Boulevard.
I have no idea, but I will watch any horror movie with Michael Keaton.
It'll come to me.
That's like a thriller, though.
Yeah.
It's not horror.
Yeah.
Get out of here with your horror.
Yeah, it's on the edge.
I love me some Michael Keaton. Is all I'm trying to say.
Gaming wish. My hottest gaming wish is that the Battlefield 2042 Portal mode is just like the next big thing, and that we can freely,
What an
easily.
excellent wish.
Yeah, that we can just freely customize and set up games with the Allies community and just everyone. So it's just so easy to get everyone in there with awesome parameters. I really hope that shakes out.
That's a good one. That is a really good one.
Parameters.
I have a lot of them, but I think I'm just going to offer this into the world because I think it's like pretty low stakes, but pretty high stakes personally. I just want Dragon Quest X to appear here in some form.
Yeah.
I do too.
I do too.
Yeah.
I'd be right there with you, Ben.
Like that Dragon Quest X, they're making it offline. Just please, anybody with any sort of power at Square Enix listens to this.
On any given day, that project does not pop into my mind. But if that happens, day one with you. I'm not.
Yeah,
of course.
absolutely.
Of course.
It would be so jolly. Make me very, very,
Make
very,
a little
very
thief
happy.
in that world and run around like.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Hunting some slimes.
I haven't even looked at a lot of gameplay of it because it's like depressing.
Yeah.
You know, like why would I want to check up on how that game's doing if I'm never gonna
I've
get
looked
to
at a lot of gameplay at it.
You set
And
it
I've
up.
played it. Yeah, I played
You
it.
set
I
up
played, they had a fan translation for the very beginning of
You
it.
played
but-
Builders 1 in Japanese on a stream once, and I very much enjoyed that stream.
Yeah,
I
it was a
kudos,
good
Ben,
stream. That was
for figuring that out.
The Dragon Quest Builders 1 stream is like one of the first streams I ever did at Easy A. I was still living in Damiani's apartment, and like I didn't have any lighting, and so it's just pretty much me in total darkness playing Dragon Quest Builders 1, which was pretty great. Speaking of dreams, Huber, you're a big Assassin's Creed fan.
Mm-hmm.
Just got some big DLC, the second DLC, I think.
Yeah.
First was the Druid one.
Yeah.
For Valhalla.
Valhalla, yeah. Siege of Paris.
Yeah.
Is that meeting your expectations?
Finished it. Ups and downs, good and bad. Good and bad with this.
Okay.
Definitely hopeful for the future if they lean in on some of this. Like they were getting back to their roots a little bit with this DLC. So the Wrath of the Druid DLC was just a lot more of the same, and the story never really got there. It was so removed from everything. They never really went dark enough, kind of with the Druidic stuff. There was some cool, like, weird little boss fights, but it never really got weird enough and just felt removed. This one feels important because it's like, go into Paris, They have the Vikings are there, or like the Franks are there. It gets really political. They want to. Eivor basically gets roped in to as a third party to kind of make sure that Paris and France are not going to just like take out her community or their, depending male or female Eivor. And it's a lot more the same. The environments are a lot samey. The story is a lot of the same. You go to a place, you negotiate, you go on some quests. You're doing a lot of the same things. But the way it got back to its roots were the infiltration missions. Mm-hmm. And Wrath of the Druid kind of did this. It teased it where it was like, okay, go kill someone, and if you don't alert anyone or maybe you do it from above, you get a little bonus points. Mm. This one is like, okay, go to this area, find the person, deal with them in a number of ways. Mm-hmm. So very like free form, old school assassination.
Is it like if you get detected, it's a fail state or
no? So it's not the most, it's not like Hitman 3 levels here. So definitely know that going in, temper your expectations on that. But it was like one of the early ones was this person is doing like a cult ritual in the cave, and you can obviously go in axes blazing, but there's like someone that you need to protect as well. There's kind of like a hostage situation. Mm-hmm. So then if you alert them, there's a risk that they'll take them out. So then you can like find this disguise. It kind of holds your hand and kind of leads you down a few of them, but you still feel like you're figuring things out. It's not super guided. There is room for improvisation. When I got down there, I was like, oh, okay, well, I have the disguise, but I don't want them to see me coming up from this way. So then you could like cause a distraction over here, like steal a key, open a door. So it was pretty fun, like getting involved with these infiltration missions that I found myself really liking.
That's encouraging to hear because my experience with Valhalla so far is like there is no reason to sneak ever.
Yeah,
like actually just none.
Totally. Absolutely. Run in.
I like to get when you find those guys on patrol. I like to get the first shot in. That's it. That's the only time where I was like, hee, like in a tree waiting to pounce. But
the other thing I really like about Valhalla is it is, like you said, it's like going to a place and doing stuff for a particular group of people. But I think like learning the dynamic of that group is one of the most satisfying parts. And so it sounds like that kind of carries over into this DLC.
Yeah, there's some cool characters. There's it's like Charles the Fat is the ruler, and you go and you ally yourself with Sigurd. And Sigurd is like full on Viking bloodlust. His brother died, family died, like all in, going for the kill. But then other people are like, well, if we just go in and kill Charles the Fat, then it's gonna like embolden Paris and like embolden everyone. So that's not necessarily good. So there's some cool dynamics and like having to choose sides, then you end up like obviously meeting with Charles the Fat and then ties in more of that. So some pretty good story stuff as well.
Isn't there a new weapon in this DLC, or is that
one-handed swords, which is a weird thing to think was not in Valhalla? How weird is that?
Yeah. No, I remember that because I just use a greatsword and I'm like, why am I carrying a shield around? Shields are cool and like distinctly Viking, but I was like, no, I'm gonna clear enemies out all around me.
One-handed swords, they felt fine. I used them for a second, but then I was just like back to the RP, the Raven set, the two.
I thought there was
the dad's axe.
Yeah. I thought there was Sice, but maybe I'm thinking of something else.
So that's another thing I wanted to bring up. Okay, so this side activity, because each DLC is like kind of a side optional dopamine RPG thing you can hop into. So the Wrath of the Druid one was about like capturing these settlements, and you would like earn these resources over time.
That could have been way worse.
That could have been way worse.
Keep going.
Okay, so this one is the Resistance,
right?
And you go on missions for the Resistance, and you raise your infamy level on levels 1 through 4, and then every time you up your infamy, you earn. I forget the name of this resource. It was like credits, some kind of like currency credit thing. And the missions they're fine. Like almost all of them are go to a place, kill a bunch of guys or go to a place and steal something. So those missions are pretty boring. They get pretty boring fast. But you earn this currency, and what you can buy with this currency is a Grim Reaper set. With like a full-on, it's called the Reaper set.
Okay.
And it's the first, I was like hyped to tell Brad about this. I was hyped to be like,
Is it? Is this like a Halloween store Grim Reaper? Is this like WWE Grim Reaper? Is this
maybe
like
somewhere in the
is
middle?
this like, what is it? Feather Top, or what's the Weather Top? What is it in Lord of the Rings, where like they all circle around Frodo?
Yes, that's actually what I
they
thought
kinda
of.
look like ring
ring
wraiths?
wraiths.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, Jones. Great. That was a
Top.
very nice cleanup there, Ben.
Thank you.
Wiped right away. Because you know
He cleaned
water.
it. You cleaned the in case people were wondering.
Yeah, because water, it can get sop in there.
Yeah.
I spill
Right.
water on my carpet all the time. I'm just like pop, 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 like
Yep.
sopping it up. So anyway, the dopamine, you go the resistance missions, you do these boilerplate missions, kill a guy, steal the thing, whatever, earn some money, use the money to buy this Grim Reaper set.
Yes.
And
All
some
in
of
one,
the-
or can you buy each piece?
So you have to buy each piece, and then some of the last pieces are only a reward for getting the max, or like each time you level up your infamy. So cool reward, you have the bloodied scythe and the Reaper set. It was one of
Yeah.
the first cool sets, something cool to work forward to. The missions you can bring your squad in. You get this like new squad that you can spend the money on to level up, which felt really half baked. If they could have massaged this, given this a little more time, I thought it would have been better. There's missions that are like, bring your squad in and earn 200 gold. Go on a solo mission and earn 300 gold. So obviously
Right.
I'm just going to go on a solo mission. I don't need any backup. The fact that you could spend the money on the squad upgrades was pointless because going on the mission solo was the way to go.
Weird.
So that whole thing was so boilerplate filler, but the reward was cool. Sorry. It's a long explanation. Oh my God, I'm sorry.
No, I mean, beyond, I
Almost
guess,
filling.
the cool factor of the scythe,
Yeah.
like, did it change combat at all?
Combat still the same,
Sure.
Attack, some parries, maybe
Yeah.
do your special moves.
Not really.
There's a rat mechanic now, very a Plague Tale. There are rats in some of the dungeons,
parry.
and you have to like take them out, and they flood back into a grate, and then you'll put a thing over the grate. One of the new special moves was like shoot an arrow at someone, and the rats come and swarm them.
That's cool.
So overall, nothing really new that you haven't seen in this franchise before, especially for Valhalla.
Yeah.
But definitely an interesting story, and I was excited for the Back to the Roots infiltration missions.
How much time did you put in it?
Excluding the grind for the Reaper set was a little bit of a grind. That was definitely like 4 or 5 hours alone. That whole thing, maybe fast traveling kill back, fast travel kill back. I'd say it was like 10 to 20. I can't give you an exact. 10
Okay.
to 20
That's
total.
pretty substantial.
Yeah, it's like $25 for this thing.
Okay.
So it's a pretty substantial DLC.
I think it's telling that, one of the complaints coming out of your review for Assassin's Creed Valhalla is that it was just too much, didn't really
Yeah.
support its length.
Yeah.
But, having played through the Druid DLC and now the Siege of Paris,
Yeah.
I feel like there's enough going on that you're still on the hook, which
Yeah.
is good.
The big DLCs for sure. And hopping back in this time makes you realize how much is going on in that game because I
Yeah.
went back in and it was like Destiny 2 all of a sudden. It was like, this
No,
person is falling from the sky, like, go on these mastery challenges.
Yeah.
There's river raids that I barely did. There's there was a festival, everyone was there like burning this thing.
a lot of different holidays. And
Yeah.
a lot of characters from the campaign return and like spend a little time in your camp and then go home.
Yeah.
And like I remember, I think it was over the holidays. I jumped into some of that and was like, wow. I could do all of these Assassin's Creed, but I'll see you later.
Yeah.
Like I did a little bit of that first festival thing, but it was like that's fun because it's an extremely cozy world, and I'm like I do want to spend more time here.
Cozy,
it is a fun world to
exactly.
walk around and gorgeous,
Exactly.
And
makes
especially
you
on the new consoles.
Yeah, it makes you think of what I just kept thinking of what Assassin's Creed Infinity will be. And I thought of these kind of live service festival type things. I thought of these big standalone DLCs that are like 10, 20 hours. You start just doing these each time because like you said, Ben, like I was so exhausted with Valhalla because it's 90 hours, but like now that I'm months removed, hopping back in for a 10 to 20 hour thing is like perfect. Thank you. It's all I wanted.
Right,
It's all I
Destiny
needed.
can kind of comfortably fall into that as well,
Yeah.
too, right? Like when new DLC comes out, it's like I
Exactly.
spent months away, but I'm ready to come back. And speaking of Destiny, you kind of mentioned how you were grateful that more old school feeling infiltration missions happened.
Yeah.
Gets me thinking about like an Assassin's Creed raid. Like,
Yeah.
like really like
Unity co-op style.
let the chains off, because thinking about Destiny, that's always the high point. It's always the thing people hammer home about is how creative the mechanics are in Destiny 2 in regards to raids. And so like I imagine like Assassin's Creed Infinity, the best case would be like, okay, I've been playing for a long time, I've got to group up with other people, and we really have to coordinate something. That could be awesome.
That would be so awesome, and it would be something new and exciting. I know
Right.
Unity did co-op, and Brotherhood and Revelations or whatever had the weird PvP multiplayer, but like something like that, grouping up on a massive stealth mission scale, like yes.
I just had a crazy thought about Infinity. What if so there's only a couple cities when it first launches, say like London's one of them.
Yeah.
And so you can modern day walk around London like Watch Dogs, and then you can go into the Animus and then go back to London in a specific time period and then find stuff out and then use those clues to go back to the present to go to that spot, find the thing, and then rinse, repeat. And so they not only add more maps, they add more versions of London. And so I can like go to a spot and like bring up a thing that'll be like, here's what it looks like. And you're like, oh, right, this is the building that I was just in. Okay.
That's exciting.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Because that was my favorite parts of the franchise when they do that, when they specifically are like, look where you're standing. This was a big deal.
Yeah.
If you're not, obviously if you're underneath the, Eiffel Tower or something, like those are recognizable, but a lot of cool spots aren't.
Totally.
Brennan, Huber isn't the only one that's been having Viking adventures. You've been addicted to Valheim. I think that's a fair.
No, dude.
Yeah.
Wow.
Have we talked about Valheim on Frame Trap yet?
Probably.
Because you streamed it a bunch.
Yeah, we streamed it a lot.
Right, and Isla and Dawn have played a ton. And I remember when I first got onto Steam, Isla had 71 hours. And I was like, I wonder how I'm going to feel after 71 hours. I wonder if I'll get this for 71 hours. Not like 130, I think. And keep in mind, a lot of that's sailing, a lot
MMO
of that's
vibes.
furnace running. A lot of that's just putting charcoal in something while I check my email.
Part of it.
But let me tell you, at this table, on this show, in this company, there have been a few games in my life that have bit me this hard. Like this game, this is the only game I've played in like over a week, like at all. Like I haven't, like even like mobile games, I'll forget, like a day will pass and I'm like, I didn't play that yesterday. Whoops. Like, oh, I gotta do.
But it sounds like
my
you're getting
dailies and whatever. Like
some of that satisfaction in Valheim.
Woof. No, it is. I'm completely addicted to that.
Are you in our server? Or are you in your own?
I'm in my own little server.
Yeah.
And I have friends that have not only their own server that they've been playing on, they have their own server that they've been maintaining.
Yeah.
Because you need to be on a server with the player, and so they created a server. And that was really what did it. Was I saw the three of you and Sophia and other people who jumped in, and I was like, I bet I'd really like that. Any sort of Minecraft variant, it's like, I'm sure I'll probably dig that in some way. Like anything that looks like builders or just has that same kind of flair.
Yeah.
Getting sticks and stones and making things like, oh man. And then my buddies that have this server, I came over and they're like, have you heard about Valheim? I love when I know something and they bring it up. They're like, have you heard about this? I'm like, yes. I'm well versed in this. And by you asking me if I know about it means that you guys have been playing this like crazy, haven't you?
Right.
And they took me through it and I was like, oh no, okay, I gotta check this out. And I was tempted to just jump on their server and be like, give me a bunch of stuff and I'll start, with that. But I'm like, I really want to know this grind intimately. Like, I really want to know how hard it is. And the two things that I think are so fascinating about the game that hook me so much is like the restrictions are perfect. Like the how hard it is to get things is just potentially frustrating enough. I had a thing this weekend where I tried to fight the fourth boss in the game and failed so many times spectacularly. And my like attempts to salvage that failure were like enough that like a man was like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "It's a long story." I'm like, I had to get a boat, and then the boat I got never mind. But when I finally did it, it was huge. Like I'd be sitting there sailing over in the waves on my little dinghy because my boat's already there, and they destroyed the teleporter, so I can't get back over there, and just kind of laughing at myself like, this game has me so hard.
So what, you soloed the fourth boss? You took it out.
Yes.
How many bosses are there?
5.
5, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my God, John.
And the rock for the 5th one's like a big skeleton head. I have no idea what it is.
So sick.
But the restrictions, I think, are really clever. What you can take and where, how heavy it is, what you need to make what things, how you get those. And it actually has like a string. There's actually like a thing to do, like a goals to have, and a you know, it's really rewarding when you get like a key or something. You're like, oh, I just apply this to this, and then that works neat. And then that leads to very obvious stages where you just suddenly get more powerful, and you get like, oh, this new material, and then like you get so much buffer.
How's your bow and arrow?
It's okay. There's like little feathers on the top and bottom. I'm not a big fan of. You know, it'd be nice if it was a little more like durable, but it's like that was their upgrade. Like, yeah, you put feathers on the top. I'm like, that's one way to do it. But it's the aesthetic is really fascinating. It pummels my PC like nothing I've ever seen before. Like that, I've never heard that fan work as hard as it did, to the point where I just turned everything off. I was like, I think I can still function and know what's going on. And then from that point, I kind of bumped the draw distance up. But like my knees were getting hot. I was like, I can't. This is intense. But just the way they manage pixels, the way it's not like necessarily what I would call like realistic. It's very, you know, early like World of Warcraft vibes, but it's just enough. You know, like it's the world feels it's so immersive. I love the way that they do night. I love how dark everything gets. I love like how scary it gets. Like most of the mood is dour. Like most places in that game, there's like one biome that has like happy music. Like everything else is like a mosquito's gonna come along and murder you any second now.
Oh my God, the mosquitoes.
Death mosquitoes.
Oh, my nightmare.
But and I, you know, after all that time that I've been playing, you zoom out to see the whole map, and it's just like, you know, am I ever going to get to this? Is there a point to going all the way to the end? I don't know. And it's just an early access. It's crazy.
I think something that I always get, I don't know if intimidated is the right word, but like whenever there's a new hot crafting game, it's like, oh man, I'm gonna have to like learn this. Like I'm gonna have to learn all the recipes and like how the flow is, and just like sometimes that process of learning doesn't seem too appealing. Do you feel like Valheim has a good sort of gateway into its mechanics and world and all of that stuff?
It's pretty straightforward. There's not a lot of fluff. There's not a lot of one thing that Builders does that I think they should do, and I think it's you want to make yourself look fabulous if you're playing like a Dragon Quest game. There's a lot of things that are just purely ornamental that are very, you know, like a lot of materials that they want you to kind of have express yourself and make different versions of things, and like every little tiny piece of something like really serves a purpose. Like there's not like even like, you know, my like big house that I've built now, if you go over to like my library of stuff, it's like it's not that many different types of things. And it's the type of game where like I would see something where I'm like, oh, I'm like running through Darkwood and seeing this like shiny flower, and I'm like, I'm not using that for anything. I'm like, might as well pick it up while I'm going. And now I'm like, oh my God, do you have any of that flower? Like, because I've got to the point where I'm like, that's what I'm supposed to use that for. Okay. So at worst, I'll just see something. I'm like, oh yeah, I don't need that. And then it'll just become relevant later. And it's interesting that I've dumped the graphics down where it's like I can clearly see where the mushrooms are now. There's not a lot of foliage like getting in the way of stuff.
That's funny.
So that was, it was pretty straightforward. There were a couple times where I was like a little confused about like where I was supposed to be going. There was one time, I think the most frustrated I've been, there was one time I'm like, oh neat, this is where I get that resource. And then it vanished. And I found 5 other examples of the biome, and it didn't have this thing that the other biome had. And I was just like, come on. And then I found like the Disneyland of that biome and was like, oh. And then like saw where on the map it was. I was like, oh, fine. If I had gone east, you know, like I would have just bumped into it. But it's just because that game takes time. But it's kind of in a Red Dead way. It's just it's very much like to survive the Viking way of life on your own, or just with a couple of compatriots. Like you have to be able to defend yourself. You got to get out there and get lots of resources, and it's super cozy.
Yep.
The problem is like a lot of this genre is very cute, and there's nothing wrong with cute. It's just I've played that before,
right?
Like, and so when I look to invest in something like you were saying, like learn all those systems, and survival can be tough. Like I've gotten burnt by when you die. It's a really gory game, which I kind of like. You kill a deer and just blood gets everywhere over trees and stuff. Like whoa, and when you die, it's extremely gruesome. And then I die, it's like whoa, and then I think like, cool, I'm gonna spend the next 40 minutes like recovering from that and trying to get back to my body. But there's just something about the cozy / threatening nature of the game. How like when I finally found the swamp area, I'm like, you know, and I've like done a fair bit of Gothic horror research, and so like a lot of these names that come up, I'm like, oh, you don't see this stuff really referenced that much, even in Valhalla. Like a lot of the stuff they didn't talk about. And like looking in the swamps and just see these green eyes like approaching me, and I'm like, Draugr? And like mouse over. I'm like, all right, Draugr. Gotta love Draugr. Not that many enemy types. Again, they don't like overcomplicate it. It's just really clear. It's all about just going further in the things you find you use. And so it just makes discovery in that game so rewarding and so gratifying to like figure things out and know when you like get to an island, like, all right, I don't need this stuff. I can go someplace else.
You mentioned just kind of the struggle that you had against the fourth boss. And I want to know kind of what that process is like. Like when you die, is it like, oh, you lose everything that's on your body? Or...
Yeah. Everything on your body drops in that spot and a very bright looking thing, that'll have your name on it. And I don't know how it works with other players. Can I grab your stuff if you die and find you?
Yes.
Or like maybe you can set rules on your server, like how that works. So it's like, I'll get your stuff. Don't worry about it. And then like,
there
I
was
get
some
it and
of
get
that.
out.
Yeah.
Because there's so many times it's like if I have one more person with me, but at the same time it's scary being by myself and I like it a lot. And I'm eventually once I'm all bulked up, because it's still in early access. Like there will be a time I'll go over and want to play with other people. And so all you got to do is grab the thing and run. But for example, when I was in the boss fight, the problem that I ran into was frost resistance. I didn't have armor that had frost resistance. I could eat something that gave me frost resistance, but if I died, I dropped it, and there it all goes. So I learned very quickly, like, okay, I should have 2 frost resistance, two or three just back at the base in case I need those. Around halfway through my playtime, I picked up the idea that I'm like, I need a chest that just has gear ready to go. Because if you I play on the controller, if I click the left thumbstick, it does take all. It just anything that's in this chest or whatever, just give me all of it. As long as I have the inventory space for it. So I die and you don't have any inventory. So I just open up this chest, click, and it immediately puts it even in the spaces that I want it to. And like, okay, I got these 4 items that I just basically need to survive. And then when you die and lose that, it's like, okay. It's like, all right, well, I'll build something.
Oh, it's the worst.
Do I have any bronze left? I don't. Okay. Like, what do I need to make a ship? All right.
It's brutal.
But it's fun, like one of the sets that you get from Trolls, you get this blue set that makes you very sneaky. They literally will say sneaky. The little icon will pop up. And so it's fun to like run past a big troll or some big enemy and just like grab your stuff, take off, lick your wounds, and then like come back in. The final fight when I killed that thing probably took about 35 minutes. Getting to the point from the first time I fought it and died to the point where I would be viable against it took about 4 hours. Because it was too hard and yet like bang my head against this wall.